Welcome back, everybody. Today's class is number 13 of Learn Spiritism course. We're very glad to have you with us, and we'll be talking about vices. Let's get started. To set the tone of our conversation, we're going to utilize the story that's found in the book In the Master's Footsteps by the Spirit Vinicius. In this book, he tells about a story of a man who is trying to enjoy life as much as possible. As we call it, try to enjoy life as its fullest. And by doing that, he ends up causing damages to himself, annihilating and destroying his own life at the end of that whole endeavor. The consequences are strong diseases of various manifestations, and they really decrease in that man's lifetime. Through some nights of continuous vigils, spanning theaters, bars, cafes, alcohol, tobacco, lack of self-control, all these nervous tensions, all that greedy, all those behaviors, all of those sensations, all of these that this man was trying to enjoy life, as we put in quotes, will end up causing him disastrous consequences to his life. And the title of the chapter is Slow Suicide. Many people may think, what's slow suicide? When we think about suicide, or most people think about suicide, they think about putting the guns in their heads and pulling the trigger. However, as we learn from Spiritism, that's not the only suicide. There's also the slow suicide. As Andrew Lewis, the spirit guide himself, witnessed when he came back to the spirit world, he was in the lower zones, and other spirits, obsessor spirits, used to come close to him and call him a suicidal. You committed suicide, suicidal. They used to tell him words, or they used to condemn him of his actions. And this will cause a huge conflict in Andrew Lewis' minds because he never pulled the trigger. He was thinking and asking himself, I died from a heart attack. What are they talking about? This makes no sense. But as we delve into Spiritist knowledge, we will learn that some of the behaviors, some of the actions that we may do, some of the vices that we may still have that are socially acceptable, may cause us to commit slow suicide. The first one, as we'd like to start off, kick this off, is the alcohol use. Alcohol is toxic. That's the bottom line. People may think it's good because it relaxes our nerves, our muscles, but it's toxic. We should never forget that. And then the culprit of it, alcoholism, is a disease. Alcohol diminishes the energy and resistance of our neurons, so our capacity to think are wavered off. It may cause paralysis, it may affect our digestive system, we may lose our appetite, even may foster liver cirrhosis, even the death of some hepatic cells. So it has disastrous consequences. But why do people drink? That's the question that we ask. Many people drink because they want to free themselves. Oh, nowadays I work too much, life is crazy. You say this because you're not on my skin. They may drink to relax themselves. They may drink to forget some sufferings, and etc. Even though the motives are okay, but the ways they're doing it have some disastrous consequences. Because alcohol, in effect, will lead to self-destruction. And as we learn from this practical manual of the Spiritist, it should be radically avoided. We Spiritists understand the consequences of alcohol. We understand the consequences of vices. Many people suggest that Spiritism is not against anything. We don't condemn, we don't prohibit anything. Spiritist ideas are used for us to understand, if I do this, this is going to happen. If I decide on this, that's going to happen. This is the beauty of Spiritism, because it opens our minds, it opens our hearts, so we can better make choices. We can better make decisions based on Spiritist knowledge. What about the consequences of being drunk? The same practical manual of the Spiritist. Alteration of intellectual faculties. We're opening up for obsession, as we learned a couple of sessions ago. We're really being prone to commit crimes, tragedies, right? We'll lose self-control. We'll lose our own control, ability to control ourselves, and we're going to leave ourselves exposed to some unenlightened spirits, to those spirits who may come to us, try to obsess us, try to cause us to depend on them, try to use us so they could themselves enjoy alcohol in a vaporization, sort of effect. All of these are the most important consequences of being drunk. There are many other ones that are defined, are described in this practical manual of the Spiritist. If we move to smoking, the next in the list is that nicotine is also very toxic. It's also very poisonous. And we don't sometimes stop to think about it. Even though nowadays cigarettes or smoking itself is a lot less common than it was 30, 40, 50 years ago, or even 100 years ago, but there's still people out there that have fallen under this vice of smoking. It really changes our metabolism, changes our nervous system. It really suppresses our brain activity. It may be followed by depression, lethargy, and anguish. It may aggravate some cardiac diseases. It really irritates our respiratory system, because if you think about it, we are inhaling something that it's going to be detrimental to our respiratory system. It can cause cancer. It can cause a lot of different diseases. It may cause abortion, premature births, stillbirths, many, many problems it may be caused. Even sterility for men. People who smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day during 30 years, they have a life diminished by between 8 and 10 years. So if you don't want to lose 8 or 10 years of your incarnate life, don't smoke. Please don't smoke. Learn about the consequences of smoking. Learn about that this is, in fact, a type of slow suicide. What about the viewing of smoking in the spiritual world? Tobacco introduces impurities in the perispirit. So, if you remember, our perispirit is connected molecule by molecule with our bodies. A couple of classes ago, we went over perispirit. If you need to understand more about perispirit, we invite you to go and check out our class on perispirit itself. As our body is connected molecule by molecule with our perispirits, the moment we change our bodies, the moment we change the composition of our bodies, we're changing our perispirit. The moment we do that, we're telling the spiritual world, I'm smoking. I'm causing those impurities in my perispirit. I'm turning myself, if I smoke, insensitive to a certain point of spiritual involvements. Good spirits or enlightened spirits have more difficulty to give us intuition, to really help us achieve moral progress, which is the main purpose of all of our lives. And the main problem of the dependence continues and usually has the duration of the time that the habit lasted in the smoker's physical existence. Remember, once we depart from this world to a different realm, our vices will come with us. And we will feel the need to smoke in the spiritual world. And we may even obsess other spirits to seek that pleasure, to seek that fix, or that thing that we were used to in the past. These are a couple of bullet points that are found from spirits like Emmanuel, and also it's found in this practical manual of the Spiritists. Now that we've covered alcohol and tobacco and smoking, let's move into illegal drugs. As we learn from Spiritist authors like Louis Sergio, he talks about illegal drugs, or the toxins found in illegal drugs often overloads our brain, causing some serious injuries. It causes irreversible problems. It may cause us diseases that we don't even know until they are found by the regular scientists. It really hinders difficulty of concentration. We become agitated. We may lose memory. And oftentimes, a dilation of our brain ventricles. We may be atrophied, and also death of these tissues. There are huge repercussions of illegal drugs. And from a spiritual perspective, as we know, unenlightened spirits may absorb those toxins, that toxic behavior, and use our vital energy, our vital forces to their own behalf. The addict feeds a legion of spirits that turns the addict insatiable. The addiction itself is always followed by this plethora, or this legion of spirits who are feeding the addict for the next fix, for the next hint, for the next hit, and so forth. This is found in the book called Dodging the Pain by the spirit Louis Sergio. What about moral vices? We've talked about alcohol, we've talked about cigarettes, we've talked about illegal drugs. What about moral vices? Those are equally important for us to understand, that they are also detrimental to our success and to our progress. As it's in the Spirit's book, Allan Kardec says, it is from selfishness that every evil proceeds. In other words, if we control our selfishness, chances are we'll be able to control all of our vices. And Emmanuel in the book called Religion of Spirits says, selfishness works for itself. Vanity works for the illusion. Greed works for the decay. Vice works for the harm. Indiscipline works for the disorder. Pessimism works for the dejection. Revolt works for the violence. Anger works for the madness. Cruelty works for the fall. And crime works for the death. So, it all started with selfishness. And then it keeps going worse, worse. Selfishness, vanity, greed, indiscipline, pessimism, revolt, anger, cruelty, crime. And the deterioration of our own started all the way back with selfishness. If you could work in those virtues that would eliminate selfishness, this should be the time, this should be the location that we need to focus or to put all of our sticks together. All of our sticks together in order to win our selfishness or to win that battle against selfishness. And virtues. In order for us to combat a vice, we need to have virtues. As Emmanuel continues in the same book, in the same work, all these moral monstrosities represent bitter and poisonous fruit of audiences to the soul, with the intelligence of the darkness in the desert palace of the lost hours. A very deep phrase that he's talking about all these monstrosities, all these poisonous behaviors that our intelligence is not able to capture. He's going to put us in a very difficult place. He's going to make us lose some important time. He's going to make us lose some important resources of our lives. However, as we know from Spiritism, we're never alone. We're never abandoned. Help is called humility and benevolence. Hope and optimism, pardon and disinterest, goodness and tolerance, charity and love. And only through it, those that we, spirits, will be able to walk in the same footsteps in harmony with the laws of God. We'll be able to really follow Jesus' gospel. We'll be able to follow Jesus' teachings. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, this is the time. Our world is going to transformations. We're going from one planet of trials and expiations to another planet of regeneration. It's time for us to practice our virtues. It's time for us to put our vices aside. It's time for us to really embrace our moral progress. Take the charge, take the lead, and really follow Jesus' steps as He wanted us to. With that, I'd like to thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.